Hello, guys. It's time to dive into this fascinating topic of psychedelics and meditation, one which has several components that I want to visit because their importance right now in the seeking community when it comes down to expanding consciousness, to exploring reality, and to understanding the self. One of those components is going to be science, of course, biology, metabolism, and then there's going to be metaphysics. As you already see, I'm touching both sides of reality, which is the physics, that's science, and the metaphysics, which is what describes the unexplainable, the mysterious, the enigmatic side of reality. And then, of course, there's going to be some controversy, which is usual in these types of conversations. There are some examples that I'm going to share with you, which I think are really funny when it comes to trying to make our minds onto what psychedelics are and how they actually open your perception, or how can they open your perception, or what they really do. So buckle up and let's have fun with this, because that's the purpose of it. Now, I particularly have an interest in psychedelics because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for psychedelics, and you will see that this is very, very common in the communities that have been coming out of the psychedelic usage, that a lot of people say that it changed the way they perceive reality and so on. But there is a dark side to psychedelics, which is the one that, you know, these advocates don't really talk about. You know, the ones that kind of didn't get anything out of psychedelics, the ones that didn't seem to enjoy their psychedelic trip or session or ceremony or whatever we want to call it, their experience in general. And then there is, of course, the meditative practice, which when we take it to the spiritual or sort of religious way, which sometimes can get to, we're talking about the Oriental philosophies of life, which is mostly Buddhism, and how they touch into the topics of psychedelics. But let's start with psychedelics in general. What are psychedelics? And, you know, far from me being, you know, a teacher on biology in general, I'm just going to touch on some of the things that I know that are relevant when we want to discuss the whole idea of what the experience is and how can they give us a glimpse into reality as it is and open up our perception. Psychedelics are substance, and they are exogenous to us, meaning that they are consumed by different methods. And one of the most common right now that it's being perhaps overused, and I mean this in the way that there is the risk of exploiting this natural medicine, is ayahuasca, which is a combination of two plants, chacruna and ayahuasca itself, the ayahuasca vine, and that contains DMT. There is the, and I'm just talking about the natural occurring ones. There is the other famous one, of course, probably more than ayahuasca, is psilocybin, which is magic mushrooms, or that's just a general term to the plethora of different types of mushrooms that we have that have psilocybin. And then there is ibogaine and other ones that are psychedelic by nature. And in the structure itself, all we're talking about is, and this is quite relevant because I'm going to go now into the biology of psychedelics, at least to the extent that I can possibly even touch, and I'm just touching the surface here. There are, say, internal substances that we produce that are basically psychedelics. For example, DMT was was thought to be produced by the pineal gland in the 90s by Rick Strassman, which is a book I recommend. DMT, the spirit molecule. Rick Strassman, look it up. He's a fantastic contributor to the whole psychedelic scene, and he did a research in DMT, which is intravenous, and that's a different way to take psychedelics, which is interesting itself. But we produce this in our pineal gland. This was recently found out by research done just a couple of years ago, I think, maybe a year ago. It was corroborated. So we do produce DMT, that's present there. Psilocybin, again, being a tryptamine. They're all tryptamines, that's the key thing. You may be familiar with the word tryptophan, which is an amino acid that we produce, and I believe it's not, is a non-essential amino acid. I may be wrong there, but in any case, we have this amino acid in our body, and I'm pretty sure we produce tryptophan. So it is even an amino acid that we produce, and the difference molecularly is very small to a tryptamine. Now, tryptamines, again, we produce, and they're a part of our body. Even serotonin is a tryptamine, and melatonin is a tryptamine. And you may be familiar with those two because serotonin is what we want, for happiness, or at least it's what's produced. And then melatonin is what we produce to go to sleep. And that's just a diurnal cycle that we have. So these are molecules that exist in our body, and that means that we have receptors for them. So when we take exogenous, which just means external to us, substances that contain this, then something funny happens in ourselves, and that they alter consciousness. That is the thing. These substances are supposed to alter consciousness. Now let's go back to our biology. When we say serotonin and melatonin, they're doing, in essence, a controlled shift in consciousness. Serotonin definitely changes our consciousness. The way we perceive things just becomes, we become happy. Melatonin makes us sleepy. It's changing our consciousness. We don't get freaked out by this because it's just a natural thing to be happy and to be sleepy. But when we produce, or not produce, we can produce a lot more, and that would be part of meditation when I get to that. When we take these substances in a vast amount, we're definitely changing our consciousness in a different way. And so this is the whole premise. It's important to realize first that they are not some drug that is not unfamiliar, or that is unfamiliar to us. We are very familiar with these substances, and our body is capable of handling them. There is no toxicity reported with them too. And again, this is just general information. I'm not advocating anything, nor am I deterring anybody from doing this. But this is what's happening in the body. Now, how they change consciousness is what is debatable, and what is happening there, because we try to approach it purely from a scientific point of view, and very little from an experiential, because our science is rigged in this understanding of reality based only on empirical evidence, not subjective. And so we already have 50% of the study, and the other 50% is missing, which is the experience. It would probably be more, but in terms of being a scientific mind here, I'm trying to divide the physical research and the metaphysical research. However, what it is reported is that people have a huge shift in their consciousness, and this can be in both ways. You can go into the blissful state and mystical experience, all the way to the infernal, demonic, really terrible, bad trip that we're aware of. This will become more clear as I go on, especially when I get to meditation. But this is what's happening. Now, metaphysically, what we know that is happening really is that your consciousness is being altered so you can see the whole of yourself. Okay, so you're not seeing anything that is external to you. Everything is internal. And depending on the makeup of yourself, you're going to explore and see that. This is a very superficial description of the experience. There are other influences, of course, which is why shamanism has been very adamant in creating rituals and a caretaker who is pretty much aware of the states of consciousness in which everybody's slipping into when they're taking these substances, because they're guardians of these dimensions, if you will. They exist in both dimensions. These are true shamans. And the experience itself is something that will be influenced, of course, by what you allow, because you are not a contained self. You are the whole universe. And depending on your perception, you're going to experience that expanded self, whatever that may be. If you see the world in darkness, then you will see that darkness, and that influence will affect you. Now you can see that I'm not even taking into account the possibilities of entities that are external to us, which are, in the whole, we're all one, and they are ourselves, parts of ourselves scattered around, but our relationship with them is going to invite them over. This is why shamans in general have literally no attachment to these negative entities. So you already see how intricate this can be, on the metaphysical side and what's happening. But at least on a conscious level, what we're exploring is ourselves as we know and don't know ourselves. Now, the purpose of this video is not to expand so much and talk about psychedelics, but just give an idea of what's happening. And most importantly, the emphasis into the notion that we are exploring ourselves. That is what's happening in the psychedelic state. Now, an important thing to mention here is that no matter how we do it, this is a forced state of consciousness. We are not entering this state of consciousness by sheer act of will and of desire. We are forcing ourselves into this state. Here is where I think is the diverging point when it comes to the experience itself and how people react to it, because we are entering the state in a forceful manner, which means it can go both ways. It can go into a state of panic or rejection and just repression itself of the natural state that we can slip into, which is this state of consciousness, because we're so attached to our identity. And this is where it can go wrong, because you cannot pretend to be yourself when you are in the presence of light. In the presence of light, and I'm using the word light here to illuminate the rest of the darkness, which is the subconscious in you. You can see how this gets into this discussion of the inner child, the experiences, the traumas, because light is being shone on the subconscious. So you cannot, if you resist the experience, it's going to drag you because you're being forced, and there is literally a side of you, an aspect of you that is being it's resisting, clawing into reality as it knows it, an identity, and then there is this force pulling you down into the experience, which is why you should always do it, in a loving environment with supporting people, and if very much likely and possible, to be with a specialist. Whatever you call specialist, it could be, psychologist, it could be a facilitator, shaman, whatever. It doesn't matter. Is somebody who you trust that can take you into this experience and will help you into the revelation and the insights, the breakthroughs that you're going to have. So in any case, I said I wasn't going to talk about psychedelics that much in depth, and there's so much to say. But the point is that there's also the possibility of exploring and seeing that side of you which is eternal, which is one with the universe, which is just blissful at any possible rate. And I mean, the positive stuff that you can see really is the goal. You see, there is the nature of who you are, and that's what I'm describing right now, the light in itself, and then there is the illusion of who you think you are, which is what's the light being showing you. So depending on how you relate to yourself, this experience is going to be a mix of these two. It's going to be it really depends, and everybody is a whole creation, so you can see how this goes. So this is what psychedelics do. They put you in this state and they show you things that are completely subjective to you, that are completely individual. And so it really depends on that. However, the things that we do know that happen is that there is a forceful way into this state of consciousness and into exploring yourself. And the matter that is exogenous to you, it's already cleared out. To me, at least, there is no issue there. It is more of the same thing we can naturally produce, and it generates this. But again, it's the forceful way that I believe is what changes things. And this is why dose is very important to experience, and your whole makeup. Again, do your research if you're thinking about psychedelics, and do it in a place, of course, that you feel loving, that is it's natural to you, and you can already see everything else. I mean, there are many videos on YouTube and on the internet in general that you can find that will give you tips on to how to prepare for this. That's not my point here. I'm just throwing in the bonus. So now the question is, what is meditation, and why meditation is equated to this, and what are the reports that we have in terms of meditative state? Meditation is, in general, trying to do the same thing as psychedelics. And it's not trying, it is doing the same thing, which is exploring yourself. Now, the difference is that your state of mind is going to produce or regulate the production of these biochemicals, which are the same ones. It's the same tryptamines. And it's going to do it in, of course, a very balanced fashion, because you are very unlikely to produce a vast amount of something that's going to trigger you out. In fact, there is just a little side note here, talking about DMT. DMT is produced in vast amounts when we're born and when we die. So there is that point that we know that DMT is a substance that's why they call it the spirit molecule, because it's allowing you to enter the world and leave the world itself too. But we produce it all the time. And you know, in a regular state, DMT will be regulated over the period of the day. It is strongly suggested that is related to melatonin, as far as my research goes. So having a production of melatonin, and you can see how everything starts tying into a lifestyle which supports your mindset, a lifestyle in which you respect the cycles of sleeping and waking up, but also how you live your life, how much sun you take. And the sun is directly related to melatonin production, or just light that you're exposed to. This blue light that we have is terrible for that, dysregulating, of course, the production of melatonin. And you know, the food that you eat, of course, but most importantly, your mindset, how you think. What is your world? How do you think? How do you what do you think about yourself and everything else? So meditation is getting into that point where you're exploring the same ego self is what you're exploring when you listen to the mind, when you observe the mind, which is what meditation should really do. I think it's impossible in the Western world to escape the word meditation, so I'm always trying to use the synonym phrase that I call sitting in silence, or just staying in silence. Silence not verbally, but just silence of the mind. And the best way to describe this, just observing the mind. So in any case, the idea is the same thing. We're exploring ourselves. Now, I'm going to give you an interesting point, which is there are forced ways of induced meditation. Let me put it this way. There is a way to produce these experiences in a forced way to the individual that produce similar effects to psychedelics. Sensory deprivation is one of those. Again, there is no exogenous psychedelics or exogenous substances going into your body, yet the effect is similar. You are being forced into a state of consciousness by remaining in silence, by being sensory deprived, and the results are basically the same. There are people who go into caves, and I know this is something that at least I know that it's been reported in some countries where they have been doing this as a sort of retreat, where they seal you in the cave for a whole day. And this is a practice that goes thousands of years old, but in any case, it's the same thing. It's a sort of sensory deprivation, and people come out with similar experiences. It's a psychedelic induced state because you are in a total isolation. The practice of meditation is a gradual process in which you go into these states by yourself. You can do it for 5 minutes and go take the dog out or cook. You can do it for an hour in the morning. You can do it for 20 minutes before going to bed, but you are in control of, let me just rest my mind and see how it feels. This is the expansion of the self and the exploring of the self that occurs. Now, there is controversy, of course, when we talk about meditation and spirituality and psychedelics. You have to be familiar with this if you have been around, unless you're living under a rock, which I don't blame you. There are controversies in terms of what psychedelics do for spirituality. Well, now that we have explored in this way, and I believe I haven't been biased in any point, you can see that psychedelics are a forced way to show you who you are, to show things that you are unaware of yourself. They are for sure a tool that allow you to see, and there is no pro and con to this that I would say. I mean, there is just experience and exploring. That is available to you all the time. It's just that we have been taught to believe that we are supposed to be in our minds all the time. And so when our mind is forced shut and is almost guided directly into the darkness of our subconscious, we may feel lost. We may feel scared. We may feel in panic and so on. All these demons that we have been suppressing. When I say demons, of course, I'm talking about our own thoughts and feelings and repressed emotions. They're going to be coming back to us to bite us, and we're supposed to confront them. So even in the worst case scenario of psychedelics, we can make the best out of the experience by knowing that these things are us, that they're coming after us because, well, we are it. And on the positive side, of course, there is the blissful state and so on, and you can just see who you are. You can see the connection between us. I've actually had the privilege of having this experience through psychedelics where I felt literally the whole universe. It's a feeling it's impossible to describe because you are the universe and you just feel it. It's almost like, did you feel your body? And you say, yes, I do feel my body. That's just normal to me. Well, in that state, I felt the universe, and I would say, yes, I know, I am the universe. And so I am, it's not that I am responsible in the parent-child situation, but I am the maker of this, so might as well enjoy it. This is my creation. Of course, this wasn't coming from the ego, it was just coming from the feeling. The heart only feels, doesn't know itself, it doesn't believe in itself as a sort of individual, it's only feeling. So psychedelics can bring that. However, I do believe that there is a lost of track when it comes to taking the experience to another level, which is really that once you have seen through the window, maybe you go out and explore. What I mean is this. A lot of people take a trip with psychedelics, and this is the analogy that I'll give you. It's like flying on a plane and looking through the window and saying, oh my God, I have seen so much that it's amazing, and I love it. The world is beautiful. I saw this forest and rivers and mountains and deserts through the window of the plane. They are fantastic. I want to keep seeing it. And so they keep taking trips with airplanes and saying, I have visited this, I have seen that, I have seen the other. And they keep traveling and traveling, not knowing that all they're doing is just flying over the world, over reality. And so the invitation is to, now that you have seen more than your narrow city in which you believe everything was, now that you have seen the world, the universe itself, go out and explore it. But you don't need to fly with a plane, to visit the forest. You have to go to the forest yourself. And it may take you longer to traverse the forest, to dip your feet and ankles and legs in a river, to climb a mountain. It will take you your whole life to do it. That's fine, but that's the exploration. And so people will continue to take these literal trips over the planet, over reality, and thinking that they are seeing the universe as it is. This is one of the fallouts of psychedelics that can happen, and they keep exploring it that way. Whereas the invitation is to just go and explore nature, the nature of reality. Meditation, of course, is, or simply sitting in silence, is the way in which we explore this. It is the slow and joyful way in which we can digest the world and enjoy it as it is and not depend on the plane. We don't need the plane anymore. We have our own feet and hands, and you have a wheelchair, then you have the wheelchair, but you have ways to explore the world, explore reality, like I say. And so these are these are the webs that connect psychedelics and the experience of having a trip into a fast, accelerated experience into showing you. It's that flying on the plane to show you all the world. And then there is the practice of walking the earth, of being in the present. That is what the mind is. And I'll give you this last tip. The beauty of meditation is that it brings you to the present. Just like creating art or playing music or even talking like I do, there is no way in which my mind is informing the words that I should say. Every single word that I'm saying, it's coming out of the present. Just like every stroke of a brush can be from the present. It's not being produced by the mind, because the mind is only concerned with the past and the future. And when we live too much in the illusion of the world, which is the past and the present, and past and future, I should say, the past and the future have no weight whatsoever in our reality. Our reality is the present. And so when we silence the mind, we enter a state in which we can enjoy much more the only time that there is, the present. There is no time like the present. Tomorrow never comes, and yesterday never happened. So these are the benefits of establishing a way into entering the state, the meditative state, which again is silence in the mind. This can be done through contemplation. You can be driving, you can be just engrossed in reality, which is really what contemplation is. That's why meditation and contemplation are synonyms in the glossary of the seeker of reality. Final point is that these two methods, all they're doing is showing you who you are. And there is, of course, because, and I think this is why, there's so much emphasis into psychedelics right now. And it's because we are, as a society in the Western world, we have been accustomed to instant gratification. I can achieve something really fast. I can do a crash course. I can be something. And people are seeking through psychedelics what is already available in them, because they give you this rush, and it's almost like an e-sport. When people are addicted to this e-sports, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, but there is the thrill of experiencing your life in a second, of that thrill of the moment, which is what gives this hype in biochemistry in the body. But you can have the same hype controlled in what we call harmony, balance in the self. This is achieved obviously through discipline of being present, and that is what psychedelics are inviting us. That is what interdimensional entities are inviting us. This is what a near-death experience is inviting us. This is what anything in the world, if you look carefully, is inviting us. A moth flying, a neighbor crossing the street, a car crashing, whatever, anything, if you look closely, is inviting you to be in the present and enjoy it, because the mind, again, is only concerned with the past and the future. And here you are, always. There's no other way to go. There's no other time. We can talk about psychedelics and meditation and really the essence of being in reality much more, but I think this is enough for today. I really wanted to make this video to give my point onto something that is a controversy, which I'll give you a short story. I'm going to cite again Rick Strassman and his study. He was actually I forget the word, rejected, expulsed, excommunicated from the temple in which he used to go in Zen Buddhism, American temple here. And it was all through politics, just to save you the story, politics of remaining without the acceptance that psychedelics can help in the meditative practice for some people. Now, I'm not saying that you take psychedelics to meditate. I'm saying that a session, just one session, can really give you an insight on your life and start a practice of meditation. And the reason why Rick Strassman was an exponent of this is because he himself was in the presence of many monks in the same temple. He said that approximately 95% of all the monks there have had a psychedelic experience in their lives through exogenous plants, or could have been LSD, doesn't matter. But they had a psychedelic experience, and that's what brought them into the temple. I mean, they had it once. That was the stimulus. It was the beginning of their journey was with psychedelics. So it stands to reason that when people who are not accustomed to this Oriental mentality can have an insight, they can actually adopt a discipline for meditative practice. And so he was excommunicated from the, I would call it a church already, which is, it's sad to say, but any belief system can become a religion, and definitely this because of the politics at the time, which I'm not going to discuss of what happened, but there was people who wanted to rise onto power into the temple. Sadly enough, I love Zen Buddhism, but some of the churches right now are basically political now. So in any case, there is a reason, there is a position, there is a place for psychedelics in the spiritual community. Otherwise, it wouldn't be. The controversy that you're seeing right now is because people may say that this is the way to achieve gnosis, to achieve enlightenment, illumination, etc. That's not true. Meditation is not a way of achieving enlightenment either. And I'll leave you with that. I know that's a controversy for me to say it too, but meditation would not lead you to enlightenment. That's a lie. However, it'll get you close, just like anything else. It'll show you enlightenment if you want to see it, but that depends on you. All right, with that, I think that's enough to talk about psychedelics and meditation. And I hope this was valuable to you. Leave me a comment if you think this was. Share it with others, because I know that I talk about the law of one in my channel primarily, but I think this can benefit a lot of people who are wondering about psychedelics and meditation or spiritual practices and so on. And I know there's much more to say, but hey, if this video becomes popular, I'll probably talk more, because I have deep experiences, or have had deep experiences with psychedelics, and that really brought me into my state of spiritual practices or discipline with all the old Zen Buddhism, which is really what triggers me, the old schools, and this is what I am. So thank you again for watching. Share the video, like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, of course. That would help a lot. This serving soul that is here. And that's all I got to say. As always, thank you. I'll see you in the next video.